I've always hated family gatherings. I hate my birthday most of all. Year in, year out, it's always the same. Everyone goes through the motions. Everyone plays their part. My mom bustles about the kitchen, preparing finger food and greeting the guests with a fake smile plastered across her face. My dad always drinks way too much and staggers around, laughing too loud and slapping people on the back way too hard. My grandmother smothers me with kisses, and I shudder with disgust as I feel her hairy chin brush against my cheek. My uncle bombards me with questions, asking if I have a girlfriend yet, and if not, why not? My aunt tells me all about her son and how well and perfect he is and how he's doing in school. She always takes pain to mention me and how smart he is and how he is so much smarter than me. My little cousins race around the house like cockroaches, stomping on the floor, jumping on the stairs, squealing and hollering at the top of their lungs. They climb over furniture and crawl under tables, pulling and tugging at everything in sight. Nothing goes untouched by their grubby little hands. Around and around they go, like rats on a wheel. I honestly can't believe I'm related to these people, but I have to hold my tongue. I don't want them to resent me more than they already do. The table is lined with soggy sandwiches and stale chips. Bottles of wine are followed by bottles of whiskey and vodka. They all sit around the living room gulping down their drinks, swapping stories about the good old times, and boasting about themselves. I cringe and listen to them laughing and cackling like a bunch of hyenas. It's enough to drive anyone insane. I get up and leave the room, desperate to clear my head. I know that in his jacket pocket my uncle has a packet of cigarettes and a lighter. Surely he won't miss one, I think. I can hear all the adults in the living room singing a song, so I go to the kitchen to sneak a quick smoke. Surely nobody will notice. There's a strange smell in the air that makes me wrinkle up my nose, but I don't pay much attention to it. My little cousins are already in the kitchen, up to mischief as usual. They give me a startled look when I come in, as if they've done something naughty and they're afraid I'll catch them. I put the cigarette between my lips and head over towards the window. I flick the cigarette lighter and suddenly a jet of flame shoots across the room to the old gas stove. There's a deafening explosion, and the room erupts in flames. The whole house is on fire. I hear the screams and cries. I smell the burning flesh. I feel the intense heat as we are all consumed in the inferno, and I close my eyes and sigh with relief as it dissolves into silence. Until next year, when I'll be 14 again. Over and over again. Forever 14. I am John's reflection. Every morning he rises from sleep and walks into the bathroom, and he makes faces. I am so tired of the faces. He makes them for at least half an hour, sometimes more. Mocking, ridiculous faces. I have no choice but to mimic his every action, although inside I am seething with anger. He does this every day. Well, used to. One morning he awoke as usual and entered the bathroom. On this particular morning, against his will, he picked up a pair of scissors. On this particular morning, against his will, he gripped those scissors tightly in his fist, and he plunged them directly into his right eye. John screamed and screamed, and screamed some more. I screamed and screamed too, with one difference. I can't mimic his pain, just his face. The cashier swipes my items across the scanner as I stare at the floor. I find it easiest to get through my anxiety by avoiding eye contact with people. That's why I only go shopping at night, fewer people to avoid. Did you find everything okay? She asks casually. Mm-hmm, I mumbled to the floor. Her voice sounds nice, pleasant. Curiosity wins over and I glanced up. The cashier's head is completely caved in on the left side. Blood is streaming out her eye and her ear on the right. Probably a car accident. I snap my gaze back down towards the floor and feel vomit at the back of my throat. After I pay, she gives me back my change in a hand so mangled I'm surprised it can hold anything at all. Thanking her, I grab my bags and turn towards the exit. Immediately, I see a man looking through magazines at the storefront. The skin on his face and hands is the consistency of a hot dog that fell into a campfire. He must be a burn victim. I turn the other way and see a woman with a purple bruise surrounding her neck, her eyes bugged out and bloodshot. Death by hanging. I rush out the door as fast as I can. In my car, I finally catch my breath as I lean my forehead on the steering wheel. Eventually, I look up and see my familiar reflection in the rear-view mirror. My head is blown open in the back. Gunshot victim. Why did I ever wish for the power to see how people die?
Kat sat alone on her couch, shoveling popcorn into her mouth. She stared at her TV, tied to the suspense of the movie. The sky darkened as the sun approached the horizon. Hidden behind the ocean of trees her house lay among. One lone tree stood in the center of her yard, visible through the living room window. A menacing presence filled the area yet to make itself known. Kat was glued to her movie, but still able to catch a glimpse of the black object aimed at her door. Thud! Kat jumped, startled by an unexpected disturbance, spilling the popcorn. What the hell? She whimpered, approaching the door. The doorknob was cold in her hand, her heart pounded in her chest. The hinges squeaked as the door creaked open. A rush of cold air washed Kat's face as her eyes scanned the dim yard. Nothing could be seen. Nothing made a sound. She slowly shut the door, then cleaned up the popcorn. She had just sat down when another black object hit her door with a louder thud than before. She looked at the tree in the yard, almost certain she saw what through it. Kat sat there watching the tree, waiting for something to happen. It's just some kids, she thought. Nothing to worry about. She quickly made herself comfortable and began to turn on another movie. Minutes passed and another thud shattered the silence, shaking the door. Kat raced for the lock and quickly shut the blinds. They'll go away, she said, but grabbed a knife to calm her nerves and give her a sense of security. Tap, tap, tap. She heard light pecking on the living room window. The pecking grew louder, faster. She froze there in place, staring at the windows as the tapping became more profound. She was afraid to investigate, but brave enough to stand her ground. Her home was small and every hiding place would be too predictable. Besides, she didn't want to hide. She wanted to see it coming instead of cowering in fear. The tapping suddenly stopped. Kat slowly made her way to the door and put her back to it. A shadow eclipsed the light from the window atop the door. She stood just out of sight, holding her breath. With her back pressed against the wood, she could feel it knocking. 3 times softly, Kat could hear the galloping beat of her heart in her head. Her anxiety raised to the peak. 3 more knocks hit the door, harder this time. "Let me in," a hoarse whisper slipped through the door and into Kat's ear. She bit her lip, tears filling her eyes. Another 3 knocks erupted, furious now. "Let me in." A now angry voice ordered. The knocking didn't cease. It grew harder as the voice grew louder. "Let me in! Let me in!" The knocking grew so fierce it could have shattered the door. Tears leaked from her eyes. What do I do?" she thought. "Should I open the door?" The knocking was more than she could bear. "I know you're in there, cat," it said. Her stomach twisted, her breath caught in her throat, and tears now streamed down her face. "Go away," she shouted, finally. "Let me in," it screamed in response. "Leave me alone," she cried. The voice and the knocking echoed in her head, making her more nauseous than before. Reaching for the lock hesitantly, she sucked up her tears and held her breath, unlocking the door and throwing it open. Nothing was there. The tree stood in the yard, unmoving. No wind. Nothing. She shut the door, shaking in fear. With the click of the lock, the room grew cold. Goosebumps covered her skin. "Thank you for letting me in," a voice whispered behind her.